My worst fear is, in fact, becoming a reality when it comes to BMW's interior. Unfortunately, we now have new spy photos of the new BMW X5, and we can clearly see this panoramic iDrive system that we have in the base of the windshield. And I'm going to compare it to the generations from the E39 5 Series all the way down to the current iDrive X, as they call it. And I'm gonna let you know why this is not the way to go when it comes to interiors. I'm gonna keep fighting for this cause because I think if there's anything I can do to change the direction of car interiors, I'm gonna do it, and that is making videos like these. So let's have a look at this article. It's not gonna be a very long video, because it's a pretty short article here from Car Scoops. I'm gonna link it down below. BMW's radical new interior has been spied, and it's a big departure. The 2027 X5 ditches a traditional instrument cluster for an all-new panoramic iDrive display. You can see it right here. So it sits very strangely in the base of the windshield. I'm not sure how this is going to affect the visibility out of the windshield. If the windshield in fact sits lower than what it does now, or if it sits inside of the dash. Not sure how exactly this is laid up. And then we have a big screen right here for the infotainment screen, and they say that we do have a small screen for the driver. I'm not sure if they talk about something here or if it's actually this screen up here, a small little bar, a part of this big bar that we have that is for the driver. I'm not sure how it works. It's supposed to be introduced next year, the new X5. You can see the front end design here. Clearly Neue Klasse design. We have more photos in a minute here as well. So there is a new steering wheel, a panoramic iDrive display, and an angular infotainment system. This one right here, as we talked about. We can see the crossover will embrace panoramic iDrive. Sad times. This is a huge departure, as a traditional instrument cluster has been replaced by a slender pillar-to-pillar display which resides at the base of the windshield. And here we have more pictures of what this actually looks like. Here you have a clear picture of the design. It looks like it sits under the height of the hood. I'm not sure how it's integrated really. I can't really see the integration of this screen. But it looks, I don't know what to say. It just looks very strange and very minimalistic and very clinical, cold interior for this. And we also have, of course, a clearer picture of what this is supposed to look like in production form from the CES photos. We're going to have a look at in Photoshop in a minute. So the prototype's display looks terrible, but BMW has shown a more polished version that is broken up into 3 sections. There is a digital instrument cluster in front of the driver, as well as 2 other areas that can be customized with as many as 6 widgets. So now, instead of beautifully crafted toggles and dials and buttons, we now have widgets for car interiors. Everything from compass to weather widgets to ones showing audio and navigation information. There is also supposedly be some performance related widgets as well. So interesting to see that, I guess. Everything is just being pixelated and like this. The dash looks like a landing strip here, completely flat. Not sure if they're gonna make this into something. I mean, they're obviously gonna look nicer than this, but how are they gonna design this distance from the driver and this entire panel here? How is this gonna be designed, and how are they gonna make it look and feel cozy in here? Cozy is everything I'm looking for in a car interior, and this probably not gonna be a very cozy interior. It's gonna be a very cold, uninviting interior, but I could be completely wrong. Maybe they do something insane that I haven't thought about, and they managed to make this feel like a very warm and welcoming interior. I doubt it though, but we're gonna have to wait and see for the production version. You have a new steering wheel with 2-tone contrast stitching. The steering wheel will have a haptic button that serves as a replacement for the iDrive controller. It also has a large central display. You can see that one right here. This is obviously not what the production version is going to look like. This looks extremely bulky with a massive frame going around it. You have all these computers here. You can see the design of the armrest here, though. Looks like we have some sort of connections or controls in this area in the middle. And we have a split design for the armrest. It looks like maybe it opens both ways here. I'm not entirely sure. The infotainment system will run operating system X, which promises to allow for greater personalization. I don't want to have my car being personalized. I want to have the car come from factory as the manufacturers intended for me to perceive the interior. I don't want to have everything be customizable in the interiors. Just design it as the car manufacturers want me to see the design, because that is their idea. That is why I'm buying a specific vehicle, because the car manufacturer did a design that I appreciate. I don't want to be designing stuff myself in the interior. I want to have it come from factory in a beautiful way and buy the car based on my personal preference of how the interiors looks like. I don't want to have this, fully customizable stuff that we have in our phones inside of the interiors. You also have an improved intelligent personal assistant, and here you can see what the actual production version is going to look like. So we have a tilted screen in the middle, a steering wheel right here with these haptic buttons on the side, and this big panoramic iDrive system that we have right at the base of the windshield with all these small widgets. So as we can see here, I think this is actually going to be the gauge cluster. It's just going to be a part of this big screen. This is separated into 3 different units. We have one center unit here, one for the passenger, and then we have one for the driver, in addition to this weirdly designed infotainment screen that we have in the middle. And you can drag and drop these. So you have widgets here on the infotainment screen. You can drag and drop onto the bar that you have right there. It's just, I don't know. I'm not built for this type of era of design in general. I just like older cars more and more and more the more new cars comes out, and that's just how I feel about new car interiors and car design. I think in general, just exterior design as well. They're just, look back at the 60s when we had all these small chrome details on the exterior of the car. You have these multi-spoke, I'm not sure what the wheels are called, but for example, British sports cars. If you look at the E-Type, for example, beautifully crafted wheels. The headlight had this beautiful bezel around it. And all of these details are just going away. We don't have any sort of... I don't feel like we have any passion left for car design. It's just going downhill. We also can see a row of minimalist switchgear, which is positioned in front of the armrest. That is what we're talking about right here. So you have a couple of functions here. Maybe more widgets, I don't know, but we're going to have to wait and see what that is all about. So with that said, let's jump into Photoshop here and check out these interiors. And if you think what I'm saying is complete nonsense and you really like these new interiors that we have, generally, I mean, a lot of manufacturers are making interiors like these days, super minimalistic. If you prefer these interiors, I want to hear your opinion, like honestly, not to argue or anything like that. I just want to hear, maybe you can change my thought process on how I should view these new interiors, and let me know why you prefer them over this one up here. This, I do believe, looks to be Polizei, it says here. Maybe it's a Team Police BMW M5. I didn't know that existed. But I mean, look at this interior here. You have the center portion here being angled towards the driver, meaning that this is a drive. First of all, you get the impression when you see this that this is a driver-focused machine that you're stepping into. It doesn't care about the passenger. The passenger can sit here and do whatever they want. They don't even have anything to be entertained by, and everybody needs to be constantly entertained today. That is also a problem that we have in today's society. You need to learn to be bored, because when you're bored, that is when your ideas starts to form inside of your head. If you're always on TikTok in a 5-second video scrolling, you have no capacity. Your brain does not have the time to be bored and think about ideas. And that comes for design as well. So everybody needs to be entertained. But thankfully, back in the day, 2001, we did have these beautiful interiors by BMW. And look at the screen size. I would 100% want to go back to screen size this size. I would not mind that at all. I would pay extra for it. And all these beautiful buttons that we have, and this ambient red light that was so typical for BMWs of this era. You also have it in the backlit of the gauge cluster here. And you have the steering wheel the roundness of the steering wheel right here, it follows the exact roundness that we have for the gauge cluster housing. So as you look through this, you're not gonna see the housing for the gauge cluster because it was designed with intention and with thought behind it to have the same curvature as the steering wheel. So everything that you want to see in the gauge cluster fits within this area right here of the steering wheel. Just beautifully done, and something that we should never have gone away from, in my opinion. And then you have the steering wheel itself, 3-spoke blacked out steering wheel, M logo down here. I always love these steering wheels, the upgraded E39 steering wheels. They look fantastic. The old ones had like 4-spoke design, something like this, but I do prefer these upgraded E39 steering wheels. They look so good and are so comfortable to just drive around in. I also always loved this area, even though it is a big flat surface up here, the materials here and everything felt extremely solid. The build quality when you stepped into one of these was just absolutely fantastic. And on top of that, they offered this with, of course, the 6-speed manual for the M5 specifically, and I do believe the 540, maybe the lower trims as well when I think about it, of the E39. Now moving into the iDrive 7, really have nothing against this interior. This is a great modernization of the original E39 interior here. This to me is peak. I mean, if I were to pick one, I'm still going to pick the old E39. But when it comes to mixing tech and design, this is peak BMW interior design, the iDrive 7 system. Because the thing is here, we still have this solid piece of dash right here. Nothing for the passenger to be entertained by. The screen could have been a little better integrated for sure, but at least it is separated from the gauge cluster, which still has this rounded feel to it that not really follows the exact outline of the steering wheel like it did beautifully in E39, but you can still see all the information through this area of the steering wheel, making it for a beautiful, functional and safe design. And again, we still had the beautiful buttons here for the climate settings and everything like that in a separated control panel down here, in addition to some buttons here for the gear selector and the drive modes and so on. This is still a very, very beautiful looking interior, and I wish we could have just modernized this, the styling of it, but keep the key elements of the interior at the same spot as we had on the iDrive 7. But as you know, that did not happen with the iDrive 9, this being a BMW iX. Now you can see the hardware behind this screen. If you look behind this screen, you can see a bracket that holds this screen into place in the back. It's the implementation here has always blown my mind at how lazy this interior integration of the screen is. And there's also a dual screen setup here. I do believe 14 point something 3, and then you have a 12.3 inch infotainment screen right here. But look at the steering wheel design has changed. It's a lot more flat at the top, and then we have these angles on the sides, and then we have a completely squared off gauge cluster, which does not follow. When you look through here, it's going to cut off the corners of this screen, so you're not going to see this information here. If you have some information in these areas here, it's going to be blocked by the steering wheel because it doesn't follow the same outline as the gauge cluster. And of course, everything now being digitalized, everything being integrated here for the climate settings, and we lost this beautiful piece of the iDrive 7 is not available anymore in the iDrive 9. Instead, it's very minimalistic, but we're not stopping there. BMW said we're going to go even more minimalist. This is not the end result. So I'm not sure how much more we can take away from interiors before it turns into just a space with a round steering wheel and nothing else. You're probably going to have goggles in the future which has all the infotainment screen. When you look down here, you're going to see a augmented infotainment screen or something like that. This is the latest version right here with the iDrive X system. You can see that we're just removing until we get to the point where interiors have no personality. Design in general has zero personality, so there is nothing for anybody to be offended by. That is a key component in today's society. We can't offend anybody with anything, so everything has to be as stripped down as possible, and that is the reason why we get to this point that we have today for this BMW iDrive X system with this angled infotainment screen, and we also have this bar up top for the BMW now. Gauge cluster being integrated there. We have a center screen here, and we need to entertain the passengers as well. So we need to have a screen for the passengers here so they can do whatever they want and not be bored, because we cannot be bored in today's society, apparently. So we're gonna have to see what this looks like in production form, and I'm honestly looking forward to seeing how this is gonna be received by BMW buyers when this comes out in production.